And these 94% of companies employ about half of our entire workforce. So when it comes to workforce development, small business is a huge driver that sometimes people don't understand. And so the work that you're doing right now, when partnership with Intuit, is allowing these businesses to continue to expand and grow so they can hire more individuals. So that focus area is so important.
Thank you, and that is the program that's going to scale. We're moving into an additional 3 states in July.
Excellent. Speaking of partnerships, Eric, can I go back to what you're mentioning, the distinction between UCLA Extension and UCLA? Sometimes people don't know the difference. If you can go into a bit more detail that you mentioned already. But as you're moving forward in terms of the work that UCLA Extension is able to do is the ability to work with organizations and change your curriculum and develop your curriculum in a way that's matching the needs. Can you go into a bit more detail so the audience understands how do we work more closely with UCLA Extension?
Yeah, sure, thanks. I've been in this position for just over 5 years, and again, storied history, over 108-year-old institution doing great things for that 108 years. The one thing I think that we do really well, though, is that we have amazing faculty at our main campus, and in some cases they teach in our programs. We're part of the Academic Senate, so we're considered a professional school at UCLA. But the one thing that really distinguishes us is that we hire people that are actually employed full-time in the professions for which we're training them to go into. And so it's really important that we partner with businesses, with industry, to make sure that the voice of business is there. Because we want to hear from you. We want to understand what it is that you need to be successful as either a business owner or somebody that oversees a governmental agency or a nonprofit. And so each of our programs, we have over 100 programs offered through UCLA Extension. Each program is required to have an advisory board. And on these advisory boards, we invite not only CEOs and community leaders, but HR directors and others to participate in the curriculum development process and to make sure that, again, that voice is heard. The instructors themselves, if you look at our portfolio, they're just these amazing individuals that have passion for the industries that they serve in. Most of them are not coming here because they want to become millionaires. They're not coming here because they want to earn necessarily even an extra paycheck. They're coming because they want to give back to Los Angeles. And so we're very proud of that fact that if you look across our programs, we have very high completion rates, and then we have these amazing mentors that our students learn from. So that's one major way in which we really differ from the main campus.
I also want to highlight the pathways and the option that UCLA Extension gives. On a very personal note, actually, for some of you who know me, I'm a social worker by training. And before I went back to UCLA to get my degree in social work, I had to make sure that this is what I want. And that's what Kevin was mentioning in terms of upskilling, right? Understanding. But you don't know what that path truly is. So I actually took a UCLA Extension course on child psychology and child welfare in order for me to really commit myself to it. And that option of actually understanding the exploration of future career options could be so important as we're moving forward, because right now the pathways are not quite clear. Good for the folks that's like, you know what, I'm going to be a doctor or going to be an engineer, that they know their path. But there are many of us who have to test things along the way.
I would say you're absolutely right. And I think unlike in the past where individuals would spend 20, 30, 40 years in the same place and the same career, we don't see that today. And I think as a result, people really do look at institutions like ours or other community colleges or other institutions of higher education to help them upskill, retrain. It's so critically important. And I just think of a story of one of our recent alums. He had a really compelling story. He was a very successful attorney, a graduate from Berkeley, double grad from Berkeley, and so came to us during the pandemic. He wanted to become a producer, and so he took our screenwriting and producing programs, and now he's actually pivoted his entire career, retired from being an attorney, and has actually screenplays and all sorts of things happening, Netflix shows, and it's just a way just demonstrating that the programs that we have in a short period of time, people can come here, get retrained, and start a whole new career. And I think that's the modern way that people look at education, just-in-time education.
Randall, you were mentioning your employee number 5, and you were able to grow all the way across. Amazing career path. And as Cordova continues to expand, can you talk a little bit from a private sector perspective in terms of the importance of workforce development, in terms of what the needs are from a private corporation so that civic serving organizations, education institutions can develop better programs to match the needs of the private sector?
Sure, thank you. And thank you to BizFed for hosting this and inviting me back. I participated in a water forum a couple of years ago, and appreciate the nod to get invited back to be here today. I want to point out that Cordoba is a family-owned, privately held company, to your point about small business. We compete against very large conglomerate worldwide companies. Many are publicly traded companies. And the difference between a community-based, family-owned business versus a publicly traded company, among other things, is we don't have stockholders and dividend calls that we need to adhere to that drive our every decision. And that's unique to a local business. And whatever type of public policy we can do to continue to support local business, the better for everyone. One good example of this is we're active in the municipal market space in 4 different areas, all public infrastructure. Our work is fairly technical: civil engineering, architectural services. And for the longest time, we had thought that in order to compete against these big brand names, we had to recruit the brightest kids from the best institutions. And we were really hung up on Ivy League for a long time. And what we realized is that everybody in the industry was hung up on Ivy League at that time. And we had to learn the workforce better that we needed to target. And one of the areas I want to target or talk about today is we then made it a point to reach out to various universities and better understand their engineering programs, become mentors, participate, help shape curriculum, and ultimately recruit. And that was a great way for us to expand our workforce and bring in opportunities. It started with Stanford University, the Graduate School of Civil and Environmental Engineering. And we have formal relationships with UCLA Luskin School of Public Policy, USC School of Engineering, and a few others. And what we learned along the way is each engineering school has a different personality, if you will. That the type of qualified candidates that they provide are different from school to school. For example, Stanford University, maybe because it's a graduate school and the students tend to have work experience before going to graduate school, really emphasized on providing leaders and folks that were ready to step in a leadership role. But we didn't need that all the time. And what we found, what we needed was folks that understood, that were solid in things like math and understood production. And we found that at Cal State Fullerton, Cal Poly Pomona, and UC Merced in particular. And we've had great success with our outreach to universities and in particular there. And that has really worked for our benefit, and the investment of time and money we did to expand our view really paid off.
This next question actually goes to all of you, and please feel free to jump in. I think all of you in some way talked about partnerships. Cynthia particularly mentioned public-private partnership with Intuit. Can you give other examples, success stories of partnerships, and so that the audience understands, how did you come up with these partnerships? Where did they come from? So how do we replicate those processes of successful partnerships? So please feel free to jump in anyway.
Oh, sure. I mean, we have lots of different partnerships, and one that comes to mind, because there's a gentleman sitting in front of me that runs the program, that's our technical management program, but we've been doing that for 70 years now. But Boeing Corporation is a great example. So Boeing and the aerospace industry, for many decades now, we've partnered with them, and it's a great example of where they came to us and said, we have a really particular need, and we need to train our engineers to become better managers. And so we've worked with them over the last 70 years as a strategic partner to make sure that the curriculum, again, is updated to their standard. And there's lots of other folks, Northrop Grumman and others that are based in Los Angeles. But that's just one example of many that we have here where, again, it's so important for us because the difference for us is that we don't want to assume that because we're a public research university that we know better than industry and our partners, that we still need to have that collaboration back and forth and hearing from the workforce, the employers, what they actually need.
I'd like to say, it's really multi-didactic in its approach. You have to be able to look at all the industries. And so the Los Angeles Urban League is very proud to say that we kind of cross-pollinate. So it goes through the full continuum. So we have partnerships with Southern Cal Gas. That partnership is in our construction. And so it works with our apprenticeships. We have partnerships with the healthcare, UCLA, although I'm a Trojan. Jack hasn't come on board yet. That's all right, we're here with you.
We appreciate that.
You got that. And it's a great program. Healthcare, working to train nurses aides and CNAs. We have partnerships with Backstage program that looks at the back room, again, I say the back room of film and the industry of entertainment. So it's with Paramount and CAA, and we work to get folks behind the cameras in what we call below the line positions. And then we have partnerships with Amazon, an opportunity to get kids and internships and see how we can work further with apprenticeships. So we're really diverse, are very diverse in how we look at partnerships. But I'd like to state also, it's not just about the workforce development. There's a question that he hasn't asked yet, but that will be about grant funding. So we look at these partnerships kind of two-pronged. How can we bridge or build our communities through their funding, give them a win-win with their workforce, and build our communities? So it's really a triad, and that's our approach that we work. So not just merely funding, but partnerships and then building the workforce as well. So it's, again, multi-didactic.
Fight on, Cynthia, fight on.
That's a Trojan answer.
Wait, it's go Bruin.
I'd like to